The Chicago Bulls had everything they needed to keep accumulating titles, but mainly the dream all-star team of Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman, among others. And curiously, whoever managed to bring them together and achieve that unstoppable force would be the one who, in the end, would ultimate them out. We'll tell you why the Bulls would have been unstoppable if it wasn't for their own creator, the genius and demon Jerry Krause. Don't leave until the end of the video, we always have something for you that will surprise you. And before we get to today's topic, don't forget to subscribe down below. Jerry Krause was the general manager of the Chicago Bulls for 18 years, being the one who hired players like Scottie Pippen and renewed Michael Jordan. This name will remain engraved because he is the guilty partner of the dynasty of the Chicago Bulls' existence, but also that it will end in a not very happy ending. Krause arrived at the Chicago Bulls in 1985. However, he already had experience as a talent scout for the Baltimore Bullets. He was the one who asked for the position of general manager in a Bulls that had a young Michael Jordan who would enter his second year in the league. The manager didn't wait to have problems with the coaches. For example, with what happened with Jordan and his injury in the 1985-86 season. It was the same Jerry Krause who demanded with threats of dismissal to Stan Albeck, coach of the Bulls, to take care of Michael Jordan not to play more than 7 minutes per half. After seeing Jordan's incredible performance, Krause began to move pieces within the team, looking to build a stronger team. In 1987, he drafted an invisible Scottie Pippen, who was coming to the NBA after starting to play basketball in college. That year, it was a surprise that he came in 5th place in the draft for the Seattle Supersonics, but Krause had already agreed to a player trading so that Pippen would come to the Chicago Bulls. From there, he would get one of the worst contracts in history by accepting 7 years with the Bulls for only $18 million. Notice how Krause was accumulating achievements despite the fact that at the time, he never stopped generating some discomfort? Horace Grant arrives in at the same time as Pippen, where a great team begins to be built in Chicago. In 1988, he made one of the riskiest tradings in NBA history, taking Charles Oakley to the New York Knicks and trading him for Bill Cartwright. Oakley was Jordan's best friend on the team, and for this very reason, Michael Jordan showed his displeasure with the management. However, that trading was an important part of the construction of the Bulls dynasty. From there, things began to improve every season more and more. Also, Phil Jackson arrived at the bench in 1989, creating a team that was adapted to every need. The Chicago Bulls of Michael Jordan had to climb the highest mountain before they could win their first title. The Detroit Pistons' bad boys always got in the way of the climb. However, in the 1990-91 season, the Bulls defeated their nemesis and the rest was history. A first part of that history that showed us how the team brilliantly assembled by general manager Jerry Krause, consistently led by coach Phil Jackson, was masterfully handling his majesty, found no obstacles to becoming the first to win 3 consecutive titles since the Boston Celtics dynasty did so in the 1960s, and Jerry Krause was named Executive of the Year. But in the same way, he kept creating a tension that heralded an arc with an unwanted ending. The first question to ask would be, what would have happened if Michael Jordan had not retired in 1993 to play baseball? On October 6th of that year, Berto Center, the Chicago Bulls' training facility, was hosting the nation's press to witness a historic event. The team's owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, was there with Jerry Krause, the dynasty's general manager and architect. There was also Phil Jackson, and even David Stern was there. And the dreaded thing happened. Michael Jordan claiming that although he still loved basketball, this was the right time to retire. "I have nothing left to prove to anyone. I've reached the pinnacle of my career," he said harshly. From that moment on, everything changed. For the Bulls, for the NBA, for the world of basketball, and even for other activities. The world's greatest athlete, then the world's greatest basketball player, the same one who rubbed elbows with Babe Ruth and Muhammad Ali, was stepping aside. It wasn't until March 18th, 1995, that we heard from his own voice that he was back. Perhaps that must have been a warning sign for what seemed to be the unstoppable force that the Bulls were. But Krause kept generating controversy despite the little sign for alarm. It must have been because neither the Magic Johnson's Los Angeles Lakers, nor the Portland Trail Blazers with Clyde Drexler, nor the rejuvenated Phoenix Suns since Charles Barkley's arrival, could get out of their clashes with the Jordan Bulls. None of them could even extend the series to 7 games. The dominance was established, and the question, year after year, was who could be the new champion's rival in next year's finals. With the loss of Jordan, even the New York Knicks were threatening to take over from Chicago. Orlando was putting Magic into the competition, but the Houston Rockets flew higher and in 2 consecutive seasons. The first by defeating the Knicks in 7 games, and the second by sweeping aside the inexperienced Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway of a young Orlando Magic team. But the Bulls didn't go down like many predicted. Instead, they had 2 good seasons, solidified with 55 wins in 93-94 and 47 in the next. On both occasions, the team climbed to the Eastern Conference semifinals. Jordan is emblematic. It's like asking if Lionel Messi hadn't arrived at FC Barcelona. What would have happened if LeBron hadn't disarmed the Heat's big three? While the offensive rating had dropped by nearly 6 points per 100 possessions from the seasons they were champions, defensively they had progressed to allow their opponents fewer points in both seasons compared to the statistics of the last time they had been champions. And the highlight was that Scottie Pippen was shining with an average of 21.7 points per game in both seasons, with 8.4 rebounds, 5.4 assists, and 2.9 steals. Not bad. Meanwhile, Houston had the best offensive and defensive averages in both seasons, and had similar numbers to the Bulls without Jordan. What's more, in the 1994-95 season, both Rockets and Bulls finished the regular season with the same record, 47 wins and 35 losses. But the difference was, without a doubt, that while the Rockets had 2 stars, like Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler, the Bulls missed his majesty. With these facts, it's not hard to imagine that with Jordan at his best in the squad, besides having the possibility of adding talent as they did with Tony Kukoc, Ron Harper, Luke Longley, Steve Kerr, and finally Dennis Rodman, history would be talking about Chicago could have been the second team in history to add at least 8 consecutive titles, behind the 10 in a row that Boston Celtics achieved between 1957 and 1966. If Michael Jordan had not retired for the second time, the topic of discussion today would be whether the Rockets could win their first NBA title, if Hakeem Olajuwon would have been the most dominant player in the competition in the 2 seasons in which Jordan changed the orange ball for the wooden bat. Perhaps there would not be those today who dare to mention another name other than MJ to consider him for the best in history. Of course, Jordan is just one of the suppositions, because Krause's hand didn't stop handling the luck of the rest of the team. Phil Jackson and Jerry Krause were friends for many years, but according to Coach's words, they fell out when journalist Sam Smith published the book The Jordan Rules. That book talked about the bad relationship the general manager had with several players and about Jackson's great work. However, the Bulls had won 2 championships in a row and were looking for a 6th in the 1997-1998 season, but the tension came to the team after several events by the manager. Jerry Krause did not invite Phil Jackson to his wedding, but he did invite all the players and even the Iowa State University coach Tim Floyd, a true and inexplicable snub. Then he put a lot of pressure on Jackson to sign a 1-season contract, announcing that even if he won all 82 games of the season and the championship, it would be his last year on the team. Would you be so comfortable working under those conditions if you were in that situation? Krause's ego also led him to declare to the media that the players were not winning championships, but that the directors were doing it. That upset Michael Jordan, which led the manager to rectify himself and say that he meant that they didn't win alone, but that everyone won. He was also unfriendly to Scottie Pippen, who was one of the lowest paid players in the league. This led Pippen to make extreme decisions about choosing the start of the season to have ankle surgery so as not to ruin his vacation. The team finished the 1997-1998 season champion, and as expected, both Pippen and Phil Jackson left. As if it wasn't enough, Michael Jordan announced his second retirement, and this way the dynasty of the Chicago Bulls would end. Jerry Krause remained as general manager of the Chicago Bulls until 2003, without achieving any more achievements with the Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan returned from retirement with the Washington Wizards, and Phil Jackson won more championships with the Los Angeles Lakers. We can only imagine what would have happened if the architect of the franchise, the brilliant strategist who achieved that formation in the Chicago Bulls, had avoided all of those conflicts. Phil Jackson probably would have kept his commitment to the team if Krause hadn't dismissed him so early, and regardless of the results. Jordan would have been much less hesitant in his comings and goings, and would have been an indissoluble part of the team without forcing a reorganization, both with his departure and his return. Pippen, who gave so much to the Bulls despite his poor contract, might have left his ankle surgery for later, and thus not interrupted his participation in the championship. But who could blame him? Let's not forget that he could have left earlier if it weren't for the mediation of his friend Jordan. That's what happens when your bosses aren't supportive enough, and these assumptions are just samples of what would have happened to the team, which, we have no doubt, would have won more championships without Krause's hand. Nevertheless, we should still be grateful for so much magic together in those years. Don't you think? We hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave us a like down below and smash the bell icon to get notified when we post our videos. Check out some of these videos that we picked out just for you.